What's up, friends? We are live. Moving my microphone. Just got done with a really amazing interview that you will be seeing soon because we are relaunching podcast. Um, I want to shout out real quick to Jess. She's helped over these last round of applause for Jess. These last few months, watching back some of our past episodes from our other podcasts. So, what you're going to see coming out in these upcoming weeks are a review of all the highlights from past podcast interviews that we've had. And then I'm bringing you new ones in the here and now. And between that, I'm just so excited because there's something really just cool about getting to sit down with some of these people who have different tips and tools and resources. And the big idea really is that we're all one light bulb moment away from new health, new power, new potential. We're all one big idea away from, a more healthy, vibrant marriage, finances, parenting, work. It's just like we're kind of one little thing, like missing one little puzzle piece, and when it clicks in, it's like, oh, victory. And that's, I think, those podcast, conversations bring that usually in ways that we don't always see coming. So I'm excited. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on that. Today, I want to talk about headaches. So, without a doubt, one of the main things that we see in the practice is people with headaches. Shout out to 86 Cold Press. I'll drop that in the in the chat because that's something I wish every Wichita person could have. He brings juice to your doorstep now. So I really didn't plan that. That was just someone I absolutely love and adore locally. So make sure you guys get that. But headaches are something that we see so much in practice. Foundationally, it's part of what got me into chiropractic in the first place. Or at least got me believing in, trusting, and really loving chiropractic was I had headaches my whole life. So growing up in high school, I just thought they were normal. Or to say like, Mom, I can't go to school today because my head hurts so bad. Like I just thought headaches were normal and that they were a part of life and that everybody had them. And it wasn't until I started getting adjusted that I went, oh, I don't have to have headaches. I don't have to miss days of my life to these things that I just thought were kind of normal. So when I had that, I got really passionate about helping people with migraines. I'm going to read some stats. So they estimate that over 50% of adults struggle with headaches on a relatively frequent basis. So, whether that's monthly, I would say here when people come in to, for help with headaches, they're having them daily, multiple times a week. But they're, statistically becoming more and more common. Over half of adults are dealing with headaches in some capacity. 12% of our population struggles with consistent, frequent migraines. That for kids, 20% of kids, guys, 20% of kids are dealing with regular headaches, 5% of kids with migraines. They estimate that it is an over $36 billion industry to treat headaches. So, if we have a $36 billion problem, chances are we're maybe not addressing it in the best way, right? Because this isn't new. Headaches have been going on for a really long time. Something I do want to point out with kids when I was doing some, investigating on the stats, girls are 3 times as likely to suffer from headaches as boys are. And, they talked about the financial strain and where we get that $36 billion, strain on the economy or, treating headaches. Think about it. Like if there is a child or I was back in the day of like, hey, I can't go to school. Well, it's not just that I miss out on school that day. Then the teacher has to work harder to get the information to the child. They might miss activities, but also the parent either has to miss work to be with the child, or if they have headaches, they're missing work because of their headaches. And so there's missed, work. There's just a strain that these things put on all of us collectively, or you have to call in for help from family members. And so we got to break it down because there's all different types of headaches. There's different headache patterns. And, as practitioners in school, we go through, chiropractic degree is 4 years on top of a bachelor degree, and so we're going through a lot of neurology, a lot of anatomy and physiology, and headaches is one of the main things, that, I was looking for when I was going through school. So I was fascinated to learn the different types of headaches and different types of headache patterns. There are triggers for people. So if you are somebody that, has headaches, you're going to come in, we're going to talk about what triggers do you notice. Is there certain times of day? Are there certain types of food? Are you getting enough water is a pretty common question. Now everybody's, yeah, I get plenty of water. But also we have to ask in the topic of hydration, are we eating a bunch of foods that are dehydrating to our system? Because that has a lot to do. You might drink all the water in the world, but if it doesn't have good mineral content, if we're not doing some electrolytes like Element or Soleil water, we're still chronically dehydrated as a population. And that's really, really common at the core for headache people. So we're looking at those triggers and we're having a lot of conversation around hydration. And so instead of only saying like, are you getting 8 glasses of water? Because that's a great goal, but let's make sure it's spring water instead of filtered water. Let's look at putting in some, electrolytes into the system. Let's look at, getting a list. You can go on Google, look up hydrating foods versus dehydrating foods. If, a real like a live and raw diet is going to be better in this category than processed sugars and grains and things like that. They literally leach the hydration out and make us have more tension in our system. I'm going to ask you, how have you been sleeping? Are you getting adequate rest throughout your day, throughout your week? Because I would say, especially coming off of summer and chaos, most people's rhythms and routines were off kilter and people aren't getting enough sleep. I'm going to ask you about your diet and, what you've been eating or what you haven't been eating. We're going to also talk about posture. So I'm actually standing while I'm having this conversation. I like to stand the majority of my day because if I go, have a little handy dandy chair here, but if I sit here, inevitably my back goes like this. And so if you're looking at me from the side, you can see where my head is at over the forward posture versus being able to stand. Great. Gosh, again, shout out with Jess because she was always such a good reminder in the office of like just shoulders back and having that power posture. And I'll drop a few facts in the notes about, power posture and what it does for mood. But specifically, we're talking about headaches here. Having a power posture, can't even sit because it's so much work. I have to try when I'm seated to engage all these different muscles. I have to try really hard to stay out of this. Look at my poor head. Oh, that's so sad. And how much weight distribution is carrying forward and creating more tension at the base of my skull throughout the muscles in my neck. And so posture is huge, guys, huge. And we're looking at what we're doing repetitively over time. So how does your, work space, how does your desk at school or work impact you? We're going to talk about, posture, not just upright, but what's your posture like when you sleep? Because we're spending, if you are getting adequate sleep, about a third of your day sleeping and laying. So we want to look at the posture that you have while you're sleeping as well. So those are some of the initial things that I'm looking at. By and large, and in the topics that we've already had and over again, you're going to hear me. Stress is our problem, and physical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress. And so then that means if stress is the problem, anti-stress is the solution. And anti-stress we'll call, relaxation. So let's do a little bit of breath work here together. This is called box breathing. You can do this anytime, particularly when you are having a headache or you're not like feeling really good. This is a really good technique to get oxygen into the system, to release tension in the body and in the head and neck. So you're just going to shake out. And we're going to do a few series of box breathing. So you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. You're going to hold for 4 seconds. You're going to let go for 4 seconds. You're going to hold for 4 seconds. So it's inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. So let's do a round together. Inhale, exhale. I don't know about you, but in just a few rounds of breathing technique, very simple breathing technique, I feel more steady. I feel more relaxed. You can access that anytime, anywhere. Breath doesn't have to be. I love going to Amavi for breath work, of community breath work. I love how powerful, conscious breathing is, but you don't have to go get it. It's something you can do anywhere. So keep that breath work in your pocket. Highly recommend yoga for my headache people. I'll drop in a few of my favorite videos for that. Stretching is key because muscle tension is a lot of the problem, and it's tension throughout the neck and shoulders, but also down into the mid. I mean, because watch, if I just launch my lower back, it changes everything upper. I can't even bring my shoulders back when my low back is. So this isn't, the pain is up here, but it really is a whole body. When you're solid in your core, it's going to make everything feel a lot better. So yoga is big. Peppermint oil, peace and calming, Valor are three of my favorite for headaches, but gosh, Young Living has so many. There's Stress Away, there's the Imgrain, and so we have a lighthouse list of Young Living essential oils that I use on a regular basis, and I recommend getting a roller kit off of Amazon and putting in some carrier oils and just a few drops of those, and you can label them, keep them in your purse, roll them here. I'm going to give you guys some acupuncture points, acupressure, where you can place the oils. You can put it on the bottom of your feet, behind the ears are really good. But if I had to just say one, I would say peppermint is by and large my favorite. If you get a high quality oil, you can ingest that as well. So you can take a dot of peppermint oil and you're going to put it on the back of your tongue, and that will release like through the sinuses and really help open you up and get you clear. You can take peppermint oil and put it on the wrists so that you can inhale. You can put the peppermint oil on the back here in the base of your skull. Um, Obviously, you want to keep peppermint oil away from your eyes. I would recommend diluting it because it's very, very powerful. So if you're using it topically, not only do you want it to go a long way, but you want to dilute it for safety reasons because it's pretty potent stuff. But peppermint is a game changer. I also really like, you know, when some of my people have headaches, I will, take a few dots and I'll rub it through the scalp. And so there's spots like up at the back of the cranium where you can press. That's why I'm going to get you these acupressure points. But really love oils, guys. If you have not, that probably needs to be one of our calls. I'll make myself a mental note here. Let's do a whole office hours about essential oils, because the point of these is that, yes, I want you to like come get checked and adjusted to live healthier, happier, and more vibrant. But I also want you to be able to have tools at home and get rid of the stuff in your medicine cabinet that you don't really need and replace it with stuff that is more natural, that is safer, and that you're going to get more, bang for your buck. And, it's a more holistic, way to show up for yourself and for your kids. So, peppermint, also highly recommend warm and cold. So, this is one that, man, it doesn't matter, who you talk to, they're going to have a slightly different interpretation of using hot and cold. I really like ice packs for acute headaches up at the base of the skull. That tends to, in most cases, reduce the tension and get rid of some of our inflammation. I also really like heat packs. So what you'll hear me say in the office, in my experience, ice takes the inflammation down, heat brings new blood flow, and we really need both. Primary spots are at the base of the skull and at the tops of the shoulder when I'm doing hot and cold. I love those hot and cold packs that you can put in the refrigerator or freezer for cold, but that you can also throw in the microwave. They're double duty. Everyone in my family has one. We did a homeschool project. We got pattern for a rice bag. We cut out some fabric. Nana, my mother-in-law, helped sew them. We filled them with rice. So you guys can make these at home. You can order Bed Buddies on Amazon, but get those hot cold packs. Have one with everybody's name on it. Here fundamentally going under the like what to do, here's why we do this. Yes, there's healing properties of hot and cold, but also think about this from a child's perspective. If they're growing up with a headache and they're taught like to that they're taught fundamentally your body knows how to heal this. Something's not quite right. This is a signal. It's a check engine light that we have something we need to take care of. So let's get some rest. Let's, consider trying the peppermint oil, or let's grab out our hot cold. And if the kids, so my kids will look for these things or they'll do it for themselves instead. It's like teach a man to fish type principle. I'm not teaching them that they have a lack of something and they need to go take a pill to turn the pain off. I'm instead instilling in them that if their body is talking to them, they need to listen. They need to slow down. They need to rest. They need to hydrate. And I my hope is that that will stick with them over the long haul, and it will instead of them running to a pill bottle or to a doctor to get pain to go away, they're going to listen and honor their bodies a little bit deeper. So, tangent there, but we've got the breathing techniques and yoga, peppermint oil, different young living oils, hot, cold. And now I want to go over, my favorite acupuncture point. So right here at the tip of the crease, we'll figure out which way the tip of the crease here, you're going to press. This is called Li4. And I'm pressing and I'm pushing pretty hard. So it's going to be tender. It's going to hurt. I press and hold for like 3 to 5 seconds. Can go to the other side over here. I'm going to do that bilaterally. It's interesting when I push, the left side was a lot more tender than my right. The body's going to pick. I want you to listen when you're doing these kinds of things. I'm going to give you a list of other points that you can use, but I like to take my knuckles and press, lift my hat, right at the eyebrows here, under here, and then lift. So you guys have had me do this in the practice. I'm pressing with an up and back pressure right here, and I'm kind of leaning my face into it, into those points and pressing back. Feels amazing when you're hurting. I also come right here with my knuckles under my eyes to relieve any sinus pressure and get you these points. Acupuncture is fascinating, right? When we look at traditional, conventional Western medicine, it's been around for about 100 years. Acupuncture has been around for thousands of years. And it has studied the energy pathways throughout the body. We have a lot of science to back up the fact that we are energetic creatures and that there are ways to free up what they would call a stuck energy to help the body heal itself. And so these points you can use in kind of a cookbook. So there's like this Li4, it's really good for headaches, but it's really good for a number of other things. And so, if you don't see an acupuncturist, consider it because it's a tool that I wish everybody kind of had in their pocket that isn't adding anything from the outside, but it's really activating, energy balancing on the inside. So I'll make sure and leave you guys a few acupressure points that you can do, but the go-to is that Li4 there on the hand. And then guess what I'm going to say? If you have headaches, you got to get adjusted. Got to see a chiropractor. There's all different techniques. So I know that a lot of people see the TikTok videos or they're scared or have heard negative things or had a bad experience with their, necks being manually adjusted. There's all different types of techniques when it comes to adjustment. So just because one chiropractor may not have been for you, don't write them off. Consider seeing another one because it really is a total game changer. So once they go through the triggers and the lifestyle habits and they get a handle on where things are, when they create an adjustment and it frees up the energy between the brain and the body, then your body will start to heal itself. Chiropractic is ideal for headache patients because it optimizes alignment. It reduces muscle tension. It improves range of motion, both in the segments of the spine, but also throughout the neck and regionally kind of in the neck and upper back. Um, Reduces stress. So, if you've been in to get adjusted, a lot of times I'll go to adjust somebody and they go, and it's like the yoke comes off their shoulders. It's like the burden sets down. It's like they get breath back in their body, and it's like taking the lid off a boiling pot. It relieves pressure that was being held in the system. And what I like over time with chiropractic is it helps us break patterns. So you'll hear me say, for anything to change, something's got to change. If you're doing the same stuff and you're not getting better, it's really not a surprise, right? Definition of insanity, so says Einstein, is to do the same things but expect different results. And so chiropractic and getting, a chiropractor who will give you also some guidance on some lifestyle things that you can be doing helps you break your patterns that make you sick, right? And so we're always, as chiropractors, looking for, where is the system stressed? Different types of stress: physical, chemical, emotional. But the adjustment allows us to free up the stress in the system so that we can dump out some of that, stress that you might have in your cup, because it'll start to overflow if we have too much stress in our cup. And an adjustment just helps you dump some of that out, lets you handle life a lot better. Last things I want to leave with, and really each of these could be their own episodes, but particularly because we're in back to school season, um, let's look at blue light. So I'm on this computer right now. I have a filter chosen, which you can go into your settings and change the filter on your computer. I don't have a screen on this one, but I do have a screen on my other computers that you could put over to minimize the effects of blue light coming back at me. Um, because what they've found, is that repetitive blue lights, and we all have phones, we all have computers, TVs, it's coming in whether we like it or not. It's everywhere. It's in, some of the light bulbs that we use, as with, different strain of light comes from the different overhead lights that we have in our environment as well. We're looking at effect on eye strain, which can cause headaches. We're looking at a disruption in our sleep pattern. So blue light stimulates part of our brain that dysregulates our sleep. That causes headaches. Increases our muscle tension. So in that eye strain, that goes all throughout. So we have an increase in tension that causes headaches. There can be what's called photophobia, which is a sensitivity to light. So especially for people with lighter colored eyes, or just with sensitivity in their eyes, like they're going to be more affected by blue light than other people. And so, if you haven't looked at different protectors on your phone, different filters on your phone, blue light glasses, I highly recommend it, because it is a very real thing. And taking systematic breaks. If you're somebody who works on a screen all day at the office, you've got to take breaks so that you can give your eyes, a break. And I was reading an article about, neurological effects of blue light, and science is still catching up, to have the studies, but we know that it affects the brain. We know that in lots of different ways. So there's a neurological, it's changing the input in our brain. It's not natural, right? Like we have things in our natural human environment, but then we have these technological things that are fantastic, because I can teleport to you right now, but they're not good for us because they're not natural. And so they're impacting our brain in ways that we're, still figuring out. They do see higher incidence of anxiety and depression. And we mentioned the sleep patterns. It dysregulates our nervous system. So it puts us in a heightened sympathetic state, being on technology too much, and it wears us down at a faster rate. So be careful with your blue light use. And then the last thing is EMF. So this is a big one, and I've been having this conversation a lot. So I had somebody come in yesterday, and I said, "You're back at work, aren't you?" Because she works at the school. And I said, "I want you to go look at your work environment, and I want you to look for 5G towers, or see how close, like look at the technology setup, the routers, the Wi-Fi setup, just what's going on in your room and around your room and around your building," because she's been off all summer. She's doing great. And so it would be tempting to say, "Oh, you're just back at work, and so now you have extra tension, and now that's what your headache's coming from." But I could tell, it was a different pattern altogether. This was not her normal, like, "Oh, I'm stressed out" type of pattern. This was different. And so I asked her to look, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're right. I have all these towers, and I am sensitive. A lot of people, so they actually call it electromagnetic hypersensitivity. It's a diagnosis. So, but they don't know a lot about it, or at least if they do know about it, they haven't put a lot out. If you are interested in learning more about EMFs, I highly recommend reading the book, The Invisible Rainbow. There's a lot here. It's actually this pendant that I'm wearing. I have a few different pendants from biogeometry and Lila Q and different things that I make sure I wear, if I'm going to be around a lot of technology for sure, but just in general, because it's everywhere now. I have a Liddel EMF spray. So it's a homeopathic spray. And then Blue Shield is what we use at our house, and so it helps mitigate electromagnetic frequencies. So years ago, I started having a really tough time sleeping, and I was getting headaches again really frequently, really intense. And man, I just felt super anxious and almost I get creepy crawly even thinking about it. And I was like, what is different? Well, Joey had had somebody to the house and for the internet, and they had installed an expander and a router. Oh, what do they call them? It's an extender of some sort, but it was like another hub basically of the Wi-Fi right next to my bed, and I didn't know it was there. And I was like, "Get this out of here." And I called him, I was like, "This cannot be here." Like and immediately we did that. We added Blue Shield, and at first he kind of doubted that, he's like, "I don't know. Like, are you sure that that's." And once we got that changed and the Blue Shield added, he was like, "Oh my god, you were right." Like, I didn't realize how much it was affecting me because it's invisible, because we can't see it. It's a tough one because until you're put in a different environment or unless you're doing regular grounding and you're getting all that EMF, the impacts of EMFs off of you, you don't know how much it's impacting you until you do something about it. So I would recommend, taking a look at Invisible Rainbow, Contagion Myth. I mentioned that one last week as well, because we do know, and for me, I think this is like the cigarette conversation. I'm declaring it here on YouTube now. I'm declaring that one day we will see similar how back in the day they said cigarettes were safe and they didn't cause cancer, but then you fast forward and go, "Goo, actually, we were wrong. That was we were dead wrong, actually. They do cause cancer and they are very harmful." I think that it will be the EMF conversation. I think that, science will catch up to truth because they are not exclusive to, inclusive. You don't Science isn't always there yet. Um, but I think we'll see that with EMFs, and I'm seeing it in the practice, and now with kids going back to school, you're gonna hear them go, "Oh, well, everybody's just exposed to these germs again, and that's why we're all sick." I don't think that's the whole story, guys. So I would highly recommend Sarah, it's Liddell, Liddel. Oh, those are 2 L's. Liddell homeopathic spray, the EMF one, and look at different ways that you can do some grounding. The red light therapy is really good for this. Again, this is a whole call in and of itself, so I'll put that one on with oils as well. But this is why we're doing these as well, because there's just literally not enough time in the day, and I really wanted to reach through to my headache people. So to finish where we started, let's look at your triggers. What's causing your headaches? What pattern do you see? Let's look to your life. Are you super stressed out? Are you making time to pray or meditate, do breath work, do yoga? Are you hydrated? Are you eating foods that make you feel good and that help you heal? Or are you eating, a lot of food that's having more dehydrating effect on you? Alcohol is not good for headache people. I mean, it's going to, aggravate the issue. So, what can we do about our diet? Are we getting some exercise? Um, How's your posture in your day to day? Kids, check the backpacks as they're going back to school, see what you can do to help them mitigate the strain of that. Relaxation techniques and breath work, peppermint oil, young living oil. So once this saves and we come back to it a little bit later today, I'll make sure and get show notes cut up. The hot and cold. Please add comments. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions from this. But I hope that it's helpful and that you use our little acupuncture guide and some of the box breathing techniques so that number one, you hear that headaches don't have they can be common and they will likely happen in your lifetime, but they should not be frequent and they are not normal if you're having them repetitively over time. And if they are, that is the check engine light that we need to pay attention and do some healing from the inside out. So thank you for joining us this week. I will see you next week, and we'll give you an update. Make sure you join the Telegram group so you see what topics are, and if you want to ask questions afterwards. But love and appreciate you guys. Have a beautiful Tuesday.